She revealed her struggle for leftovers. What her CEO discovered at home was transformative. Emily dashed through the front door, her hands filled with colorful grocery bags, fruits, vegetables, and a few last-minute ingredients to transform the remnants of last night's dinner into something more nutritious for her kids. She loved cooking, especially since it reminded her of Grandma. Yet here she stood, worn thin by the cacophony of demands at the office and nursing her father, who had recently moved in, his feeble health echoing her own exhaustion. Did anyone at work notice she was more than an administrative assistant? They never seemed to. Lunchtime potluck soon loomed ahead, and she felt the weight of her invisibility as sharp as the knife she used to chop vegetables. Another mediocre meal amongst the tasteless lunches of my colleagues. A self-doubting whisper echoed through her mind. Why bother when others wouldn't taste the love she poured into her leftovers? But she pushed the thought away, frustration rising with every heartbeat. She needed to show them. Her culinary skills were a voice that had gone unrecognized for too long, a longing to connect through the rich flavors of her heritage. Yet far from magic, each meal preparation felt like another fight against an unforgiving world. Balancing her father's care while answering calls from upper management, Emily's schedule twisted into a suffocating knot. She hardly had time to breathe, let alone find space for her own identity, and yet an impossible flicker of hope sparked in the corner of her heart, a chance to stir things up, to make them see, even for a moment, who she really was. This potluck could be her lifeline, an escape from the corporate monotony that suffocated her spirit. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Every meal she prepared felt like an embodiment of yearning and vulnerability, ingredients an echo of family ties she fiercely clung to. She could hear her children laughing downstairs, the aroma of her lasagna filling their cozy home. Would Amanda, the cold and imposing CEO, even pause to enjoy it? Or would the dishes remain mere labels on her plate, overshadowed by heightening deadlines and cutthroat competition? The restless thoughts stirred fiercely. Emily faced the looming challenge of exposing her depths. As the potluck commenced, Emily's heart raced, fingers trembling ever so slightly as she arranged the lasagna, each layer meant to whisper, "I'm here." But just as the door swung open to welcome the corporate crowd, an overwhelming sense of insignificance squeezed her chest. She knew, without saying, that she was wrestling with something much stronger than just skill. Would Amanda take a bite and finally perceive the sacrifices etched into her creation? At that moment, sheer anticipation coursed through her veins. She stood on the precipice of unveiling herself, yet the fear of judgment loomed large. Amid the noise of chatter and clinking plates, the truth settled. This was more than just food. Those forgotten stories only she could tell waited to burst forth. Would that moment of connection forever elude her grasp? The clatter of plates and sharp laughter became a staccato rhythm as Emily carefully observed the procession of her colleagues, their eyes scanning the table filled with a mosaic of homemade dishes. As she stood off to the side, she felt like a spectator in a world that often overlooked her. Every decorative layer of her lasagna separated the love she infused within it from the apprehension that gnawed at her resolve. "Emily, this looks amazing." Scott, the jovial marketing intern, called out, plucking a piece from the pan. His enthusiasm offered a momentary reprieve from her self-doubt. As he took a bite, she couldn't help but hold her breath, her stomach churning in a tempest of anticipation. Would it be met with the indifference she feared, or would this be the breakthrough she longed for? Delicious, he grinned, and soon others gathered around to sample her creation. A flicker of pride ignited within her, a warmth that momentarily eased the weight bearing down on her chest. Yet amid the appreciative murmurs, Amanda's sharp gaze silently measured her. The CEO's presence turned the gathering into an arena. Emily felt like she was standing on a tightrope, balanced precariously between vulnerability and desperation. The day flashed before her, fragmented, pieces scattering like fallen leaves. While her colleagues bantered, sparking laughter, Emily revisited her task list from work, endless demands that feasted on her energy and blurred her vision. Being an administrator often felt like being part of a machine rather than a catalyst for change. The memory of her father's fragile state seeped back in, making her wonder if she was truly capable of being more than just a caregiver and employee. The potluck provided no guarantee of validation. What if her attempts languished unrecognized? In her mind, the argument raged. What if Amanda looked at her as just another cog in the wheel? The mere thought of the life she wanted, one where her culinary skills could flourish, danced just out of reach, fueled by the relentless grind of corporate obligations. With each bite taken by her colleagues, the question shifted. What if they saw her not just as a provider of food, but as a reservoir of creativity and talent? A small victory took hold when Amanda hesitantly approached, the weight of her polished demeanor contrasting sharply with the homey chaos Emily represented. "Interesting choice," Amanda commented, her tone carefully neutral as she eyed the lasagna, its cheesy top glistening as if it were wrapped in the hopes and fears of countless meals prepared in love. Emily's heart thudded loudly in her ears as she responded, "Everyone needs a taste of comfort sometimes." The words hung between them, an unguarded confession. Amanda nodded slowly, reaching for her fork. The room quieted momentarily as everyone turned to witness this unspoken confrontation. Emily felt the pulse of the moment cascade over them like a wave. This was not just food, it was identity, a barrier to the overwhelming sense of invisibility she loathed. As Amanda took a bite, the reaction felt like a personal reckoning. Was this the moment where Emily's invisible struggles began to fade into significance? She searched Amanda's expression, hoping for a glimmer of acknowledgement, a hint of understanding. The room buzzed back to life around her, laughter and banter flowing, but Emily was now in the eye of her own storm, waiting. What if the moment didn't end here? What if she could harness this recognition and turn it into something more? Something went deeper, thrumming within her, stirring seeds of ambition she thought had long withered away. As Amanda's expression remained inscrutable, the unease crept back, coiling around her heart. How could she leverage this newfound visibility? Was the potluck really the lifeline she had anticipated, or merely a fleeting diversion? The fork clinked against the plate, shattering the fragile tension as the moment hung in balance. Emily took a deep breath, charting her next move. The time had come not just to create meals, but to forge a path for her own validation, one that had been buried beneath layers of unrecognized potential. Delving into a corporate world where she often felt marginalized, she realized that parading her passions, her abilities, and her identity might rattle more than just her insecurities. Could she transform this moment into a pivotal shift in her life? What lay ahead was still uncertain, yet a whisper inside urged her forward, daring her to confront not just Amanda, but the fear that had held her back for far too long. Decisions now loomed, and she could either retreat into obscurity or step boldly into the light of recognition she so desperately craved. Would this be the catalyst that allowed her to rise above, or would she fade back into the shadows, obscured once more? The upcoming days held a daunting challenge, a chance to face the unknown. Emily recognized that within each question lingered the potential for profound transformation, a chance to pursue more than culinary accolades. Perhaps her very identity itself awaited discovery. In the days that followed the potluck, a silent battle began to unfold within Emily. The echoes of laughter and praise hovered in the corners of her mind, refusing to fade into a mere memory. Instead, they acted as a catalyst, pushing her into a cycle of introspection she hadn't anticipated. As the mundane office life resumed, overflowing email inboxes and endless meetings felt more suffocating than ever. It gnawed at her determination to carve out a niche of creativity, a sanctuary where she could unleash her culinary passion. She had always viewed her role as an administrator as a necessary evil, but now, navigating the bureaucratic labyrinth felt like a betrayal to her aspirations. Each day, she gazed longingly at the kitchen in the break room, where machines hummed in routine harmony, longing to wield a spatula or mix a sauce. The absurdity of her longing struck her. How could stirring a pot ever lead to a breakthrough? Yet that's where she found herself, in a tug-of-war between duty and desire. One Thursday afternoon, while gathering files for a meeting with Amanda, she stumbled across a flyer for a local food competition. Sabor del Mundo, a culinary celebration, it read, inviting amateur chefs to showcase their dishes. For a fleeting moment her heart raced. Was this the opportunity she craved, an arena to amplify her newfound recognition? But doubt settled like a weight upon her shoulders. What if her entry was dismissed, perceived as an amateurish folly among seasoned cooks? The fear threatened to strangle her desire, yet she couldn't shake the flicker of hope that had ignited within. That night, alone in her small apartment filled with the essentials of everyday survival, a laptop, a few pots, and take-out menus, she considered the prospect. The flickering fluorescent light overhead cast shadows on her kitchen walls, morphing the familiar into something ethereal, a space not just for meals, but for dreams. Emily felt an impulse stir, an unfamiliar courage pushing against her reservations. How often had she indulged in fear instead of forging her path? With a sudden resolve, she opened her laptop, fingers poised above the keys. As she began to type out her application, the memories of the potluck came flooding back. The taste of her lasagna, the sense of belonging she had briefly felt when others appreciated her craft. It was the reminder that passion could transcend the corporate bubble, connecting her to an audience waiting to savor her creations. In that moment, Emily resolved to face her fears anew. Her application would reflect not just a dish, but a piece of herself, crafting a narrative that intertwined her passion and her identity. Stories of family gatherings, the comforting aroma of spices wafting through her childhood home, and the joy of creation would be the foundation upon which her submission stood. This was not merely a dish, it was an invitation into her heart, a challenge to view her culinary journey alongside her professional one. As she pressed send, Emily felt a sense of liberation wash over her. She no longer felt like a bystander or a cog in the corporate wheel. She had embraced her identity, allowing it to intertwine more fully with her aspirations. Yet with this leap came the realization that she was standing at the precipice of something much larger than herself. A confrontation not only with rejection, but with the potential for recognition beyond the sterile walls of her office. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from Amanda, requesting a meeting to discuss new projects. Was it merely coincidence, or was this the moment where Emily's two worlds would collide? The uncertainty loomed heavily, but with it came the thrilling prospect of transformation. What awaited her in that meeting could either anchor her deeply, or propel her into uncharted territories. Would she find an ally in Amanda to champion her culinary exploration, or would she face the harsh reality of being dismissed once more? The heart of the matter loomed. This was a pivotal moment that could redefine her future. The following morning, the sunlight poured into Emily's apartment, illuminating the kitchen where she had vowed to reclaim her passion. The laptop stood closed on the counter, acting as a temporary shrine to her submission. but her mind was already replaying the moments of the previous evening, the exhilaration, the fear, and the unexpected commitment to her craft. As she prepared for her day, Emily felt the heavy weight of anticipation settle in her chest. She was heading into the meeting with Amanda, the prospect of which both excited and terrified her. The very thought had the potential to shape the trajectory of her dual existence, but what would reveal itself in that room? Arriving at the office, she could sense the consultations and chatter from her colleagues as she navigated the cubicles toward the conference room. The mundane aura felt unsettling compared to the vibrant energy she had conjured in her mind. Her heart raced. She felt a shift within, a conviction that she was no longer merely an administrator piloting through daily tasks, but a person with something genuine to offer. As Amanda entered, her keen eyes scanned the room, finally landing on Emily. "Thanks for coming, Emily," she said, gesturing for her to take a seat. Emily's palms felt clammy, but she swallowed the apprehension as she slid into the chair opposite Amanda. "I wanted to discuss some ideas for the upcoming projects, and I've been thinking about ways we can innovate," Amanda began, her tone exuding authority, balanced with genuine curiosity. Emily nodded, desperately clutching her notepad. The expectation saturated the atmosphere. This was her chance. They discussed the department's objectives, each word carrying immense significance. But as the conversation continued, Emily felt something shifting within her. Amanda was not just her superior, she was a formidable ally. Thoughts spiraled in Emily's mind. This moment, the opportunity to share her culinary aspirations. "Have you thought about ways we can incorporate employee engagement into our initiatives?" Amanda's voice pulled her back. Emily hesitated, the flicker of inspiration hazy yet palpable. "I had an idea," she ventured, each word measured yet laced with passion. "What if we organized team-building events that revolved around food, cooking classes, competitions, like a potluck that encourages collaboration and creativity?" The words hung in the air, charged with the weight of ambition. Amanda's eyebrows arched in surprise. Emily didn't know if it was encouragement or skepticism. "Interesting concept. You'd need to organize the details and gain support," she replied thoughtfully. "I could take the lead on it," Emily offered, her voice firm. The determination coursed through her as if igniting a flame, chasing away shadows of doubt. Amanda's expression shifted, a spark igniting in her eyes. "Fantastic. I think that could really resonate, and who knows, it might stimulate the kind of camaraderie we need." As their discussion continued, Emily embraced every opportunity to contribute her ideas. The interaction felt cathartic. She traced her emotional journey from the mundane confines of her job to this invigorating exchange of vision. With each suggestion, she felt her confidence swell. The spark was growing, and she found herself recalling her culinary ambitions, not as a mere hobby, but as a driving force that could intertwine with her professional identity. By the time their conversation concluded, Emily emerged not just with a plan, but a stirring reminder of her potential. She vowed to see this through, not only for herself, but also to show Amanda and every other skeptical colleague that creativity could flourish even within corporate walls. As she returned to her desk, excitement pulsed through her veins. But as she sat with her thoughts, the weight of uncertainty loomed again. Would Amanda's support continue, or might this newfound endeavor lead to defeat? Just as she contemplated her next steps, a new email notification popped up on her screen, a message from the competition organizers. The subject line read, "Sabor del Mundo, important update." Emily felt her breath hitch as she opened it. What news would this bring her? Had her leap of faith been met with an opportunity, or was it all merely another fleeting dream? Emily's fingers trembled slightly as she clicked open the email. The screen filled with text that felt simultaneously exhilarating and daunting. As she read, Her heart raced at the news that the competition would be hosting an exclusive 2-week training workshop led by renowned chefs. Her heart leaped at the thought of immersing herself in an environment of culinary brilliance. Yet a dark cloud of doubt quickly cast a shadow over her excitement. Would she be good enough to keep up with professionals who had lived and breathed this for years? She took a deep breath, allowing the implications to wash over her. The workshop was a golden ticket, a chance to sharpen her skills and reignite her passion. Yet the inner critique piped up, questioning her abilities. Was it really a good idea to enter the competition? What if she failed? What if it showcased her lack of experience rather than her potential? Tiny beads of perspiration formed on her brow as she navigated the options. Emily could hardly concentrate on her work for the remainder of the day, her mind tangled in a web of ambition and fear. Each time she tried to shift her focus back to the team-building proposal, a nagging voice reminded her of the competition's deadline. The urge to sign up clawed at her, but self-doubt kept pushing it away. After an agonizing hour, she decided that stifling her desires any longer was unacceptable. She glanced at her calendar. 3 days until applications closed for the workshop. 3 days to make a decision about her aspirations that could validate her longing for something more meaningful than spreadsheets. Just as she resolved to take the leap, Amanda appeared at her desk, a folder clutched against her chest. "Hey, Emily, can we talk for a second?" Emily swallowed hard but nodded, feigning confidence. Amanda seemed to read the tension etched across her face. "You all right? You look a bit preoccupied." Choosing vulnerability over bravado, Emily sighed. "It's just that I got an email about a culinary workshop. I'm excited, but I'm afraid it's out of my league." Amanda's eyes softened, the warmth in them comforting. "I think you'd do wonderfully. You're innovative and passionate. Trust me, your ideas in our meeting showed just how much you care about this." "Really?" Emily's skepticism seeped through her voice. "Absolutely. You've got raw talent, and you know what? It's about time you own that. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any at all," Amanda encouraged. Emily felt the gravitational pull of Amanda's words, their weight shifting the layers of doubt she wore like a cloak. "But what if I fail?" "Failures happen," Amanda replied gently yet decisively. "But so do successes. You don't grow without taking risks, Emily, and you clearly want this. Your passion deserves a chance." The conversation left Emily feeling buoyed with clarity. Each heartbeat was now filled with a resolute fire, resonating deeply with her reasons for pursuing this culinary competition. She had the support of someone she respected, and perhaps that was the first step toward discovering the truth about her capabilities. Later, when the office emptied, she sat at her desk and opened her laptop again. She stared at the screen, anxiety shredding her composure. With every hesitation that passed, the excitement morphed into an imperative urgency. She tapped into her passion, reminding herself why she wanted to compete in the first place. With a steadying breath, she clicked the link to the application and began to fill it out, harnessing her fears like fuel. Yet just as she pressed submit, a familiar notification pinged. Another email. This time from a colleague regarding the upcoming team-building initiative. As she scanned the suggestions, dread coiled in her gut. Would her commitment to the competition jeopardize the project she had proposed? Could her newfound passion coexist with her responsibilities? The question loomed larger than before. Unsure if she was diving into an opportunity or stepping into the chaos of too much ambition, Emily felt her heart race with a different kind of tension. Would she be able to manage both her drive for culinary greatness and steer the team-building project to success? The moment was fragile as she wrestled with her ambitions and fears, straddling the delicate line between aspiration and responsibility. As her breath begins to quicken, she realized this was not just a choice about cooking, but a reckoning with who she wanted to become. What lay ahead would challenge the very essence of her resolve as she faced the next critical decision. Emily awoke the next morning with the weight of her choices pressing on her chest. The golden light streamed through her window, illuminating the clutter around her, a testament to the internal chaos brewing within. The walls felt both nurturing and confining, reflecting her conflicting desires. It was time to confront the fusion of aspiration and responsibility that had become the very fabric of her daily life. As she sipped her coffee, her gaze drifted to the laptop still open to the competition application. She could almost hear Amanda's encouraging words echoing in her mind. Your passion deserves a chance. What if she grasped her desires, not just as fleeting whims, but as real aspirations? Emboldened by the thought, she turned her attention to the team-building project. The clock ticked away, and with each passing second, Emily felt the need to transform her hesitance into action. She pulled out her notes for the initiative and began to reframe the project as a means to integrate her culinary interests. Instead of viewing the project as a constraint on her ambitions, what if she infused it with her passion for cooking? The idea struck her like a spark in the darkness. What if she organized a small cooking competition for the team-building event? It could foster camaraderie while embodying her culinary aspirations. The thought coursed through her veins, lighting her up with excitement. She quickly sketched a rough outline for the proposal, weaving in elements of fun, collaboration and, most importantly, herself. Hours passed as Emily delved into planning, the anxiety yielding to determination. With each new idea, she envisioned her colleagues laughing over simmering pots and rich aromas. She could see them pulling together as they faced culinary challenges, just as she was navigating her own. This was more than a project. It was a way to showcase her skills in an authentic manner. Once the proposal crystallized into something tangible, she hastily scheduled a meeting with her team. Nervousness fluttered in her stomach as she prepared to present her idea. Would they embrace her vision, or would her fear of judgment resurface? As the clock struck noon, she stood in front of her colleagues, pulse racing. "Thanks for gathering," she began, her voice steady yet soft. "I have an idea for our upcoming team-building initiative that I believe can significantly enhance our collaboration while engaging us all in something a bit outside the norm." A few skeptical glances flitted across the room, igniting a familiar panic. But just as quickly, she recalled Amanda's confidence in her. She pressed on, detailing her vision of a cooking challenge. Their initial hesitance shifted as Emily animatedly unfolded her concept. Enthusiasm gradually replaced doubt, and soon laughter echoed from the tables around her. Questions and suggestions sprang forth, igniting an unexpected energy amongst the team. As she was met with nods and approval, a certain vulnerability broke within her. This was not merely a cooking competition, it was a revelation. Emily was awakening to the fact that she could forge a path that harmonized both her ambitions and her responsibilities. Standing there, exhilarated yet slightly unsteady, she realized she was not just a reluctant participant in her life. She was a creator. Once the meeting concluded, her colleagues expressed their excitement and support, some even reaching out to share personal culinary experiences. A wave of relief washed over her, diffusing the tension that had suffocated her for weeks. Yet, amid the celebration, a gnawing uncertainty lingered. As she followed up with Amanda later that afternoon, Emily sought the validation of her mentor. "You really think this can work?" The question slipped out before she could stop it, a lingering flicker of self-doubt. "Without a doubt," Amanda replied, her smile wide. "You've brewed more than just a team-building experience. You've crafted a platform for your talents to shine. Remember, this journey is just as much about discovering yourself as it is about showcasing your skills." Emily nodded, her heart swelling with burgeoning confidence. Yet, as she relished in this new sense of purpose, a shadow settled over her enthusiasm. She recalled her commitment to the culinary workshop and the intense preparation it would require. Balancing both undertakings felt daunting as the competition loomed ever closer. Could she balance her burgeoning culinary ambitions with the needs of her colleagues? The fine line between aspiration and responsibility began to blur once again. A chill ran through her as she realized this was a deeper exploration of who she was destined to become. What truths about her identity would emerge as she navigated these competing pressures? Would she have to sacrifice one dream to nurture the other? Or could she merge her paths seamlessly? The moment arrived as she recognized that her next decision could shape not only her professional trajectory, but also redefine the very essence of her being. Emily awoke the following day with a renewed sense of purpose, yet the weight of her dual responsibilities was still palpable. She realized that every minute spent in indecision could pull her further away from her culinary aspirations and the team-building project, both of which were becoming increasingly intertwined. Sitting at her kitchen table, she opened her laptop and began crafting a schedule, an intricate map designed to navigate through the weeks ahead. The cooking competition needed careful planning, but so did her preparation for the culinary workshop. She focused intently, aligning her tasks, research recipes, secure ingredients, connect with colleagues about their willingness to engage, and provide feedback about the competition setup. Each item clicked into place like pieces of a puzzle. Yet while organizing her tasks felt methodical, an underlying anxiety danced in her stomach, creating a discord between progress and uncertainty. She took a moment to breathe deeply, her mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. Was she capable of solving this dilemma on her own? What if she was stretching herself too thin? The thought nagged at her. Just days ago, she had felt empowered for the first time in ages. Now, the specter of self-doubt loomed again, paralyzing her enthusiasm. As the day unfolded, Emily chose to reach out to Amanda for advice, knowing her mentor's perspective often illuminated the shadows of uncertainty. When they connected, she shared the plan, detailing her strategies for juggling both projects, her voice gaining momentum. But what if I fail to meet either expectation? What if the competition flops or I can't keep up with the workshop? Amanda's pause was heavy. Emily could sense her mentor weighing each word carefully. Emily, remember, the most meaningful growth often comes from vulnerability. Whether or not you find success isn't as crucial as what you learn about yourself in the process. Transformative. The word struck a chord. This journey wasn't solely about achieving recognition. It was an exploration of her identity, the forging of a self she had long neglected. A glimmer of insight began to dawn. Perhaps embracing the chaos alongside the structure was necessary to unravel her multifaceted self. When they concluded their call, inspired but wrestling with lingering doubts, Emily dedicated herself to defining not just her culinary project, but the emotional stakes involved. What passions did she wish to showcase? Which skills did she want to share with her colleagues? This was about liveliness, not obligation. So she began her research into culinary techniques she could include in her program, coupled with team dynamics she wanted to strengthen through shared experiences. As she Skyped her colleagues to discuss their interest in participating both professionally and personally, Emily felt a sense of camaraderie blooming. With enthusiasm rekindled, she transitioned from decision-making into action. The meeting was not just a session, it evolved into a collaborative workshop in itself, where everyone exchanged ideas and experiences. She saw how her vision was becoming a mosaic created from their input and feedback. Still, doubt flared occasionally. Would her colleagues think less of her if she faltered amid the competition? The question echoed absurdly, and she shook it away, considering that they were all in this together. Each person's unique approach complemented the others. As she was challenged with new ideas for the competition format, she felt that something awakening within her. This was leadership. It wasn't just about her passion. It was about fostering an environment that valued everyone's contributions, sustaining the balance between aspiration and shared responsibility. That evening, as she prepared dinner, Emily paused at the stove, ingredients simmering away. The aromatic spices were a reminder of the journey ahead, a metaphor for everything she was striving for. In that moment, she began to realize that commitment could indeed coexist with creativity. However, the looming workshop remained on the horizon, threatening to eclipse her focus on the competition. As she re-evaluated her goals, a new question surfaced. What compromises would she need to make to ensure every piece of this puzzle fits seamlessly together? Nothing was ever truly simple. Revelation crafted through tension often yielded profound truths. The little victories she sought might require her to confront both internal and external hurdles. As she fell asleep that night, the sense of urgency thrummed beneath her skin. The real challenge loomed closer, and she would need to face it head-on. Would she be able to integrate both realms of her ambition into a cohesive experience, or would one aspect inevitably overshadow the other? The time had come to confront the very heart of her aspirations, a confrontation that might very well redefine who Emily was capable of becoming. Emily awoke the next day with a deep-seated determination, yet an unsettling storm brewed inside her, a tumult of expectations, doubts, and the ceaseless ticking of the clock. She sensed that the pivotal point of her endeavors had arrived, and she faced an internal battle that threatened to overshadow her progress. The kitchen table, once a sanctuary of ideas and inspiration, felt like a battleground now. As she poured her morning coffee, she couldn't shake the feeling that her ambitions were tangling into a web of chaos. With her competition looming just a few weeks ahead and the workshop requiring her full attention, how could she maintain her footing? Fueled by anxiety yet driven by resolve, Emily again opened her laptop. Instead of merely crafting schedules and to-do lists, she decided to embark on a deeper inquiry. She needed to reassess the meaning behind her culinary pursuits. What was at stake? It wasn't just a competition or a workshop. It was about who she wanted to be as a culinary leader. This clarity began to shatter the haze clouding her vision. She reached for her journal, pages filled with sketches of ideas and passionate thoughts. In several entries, she had reflected on her joy for cooking and the gratifying nature of bringing people together through food. Today, she would redefine her vision. She needed to carve out a purpose that was authentic and connected deeply to her identity. This was her moment of truth. The next few hours were engrossing. With each handwritten sentence, the fog lifted. She identified themes that resonated with her core: creativity, community, and self-discovery. Each theme served as an anchor. What if, during the competition, she crafted dishes that embodied this vision? What if the workshop transformed into a sanctuary for creativity where everyone felt encouraged to share and contribute? The rush of inspiration carried her through the day, but uncertainty whispered its discontent. Could she truly propel both projects forward while staying aligned with her authentic self? The lingering question needed addressing. She took a break, pacing the living room, where sunlight streamed through the curtains, reminding her of hope and fresh beginnings. A bold thought struck her. She had to step beyond her comfort zone. This workshop could serve as both a platform for her colleagues as well as a launchpad for her culinary identity. Why not blend the two efforts seamlessly? What if the competition inspired a workshop element encouraging team play, creativity, and a dash of healthy rivalry? The idea electrified her, but as she scribbled, the shadows of doubt crept in quietly, pulling her back. Would they embrace her vision? Her colleagues might view her attempts to merge both worlds as naive or even reckless. The stakes felt unnervingly high, and how would she respond if they resisted her ideas? Through the haze of doubt, she recalled Amanda's words about vulnerability. Emily knew that growth necessitated risk, and that the most transparent path to her aspirations lay through discomfort. Embracing vulnerability would invite her colleagues to share their fears and aspirations too, framing a mutual understanding of the pressures they all felt. That meeting was now a crucible where each of their burdens could potentially transform into shared nourishment, figuratively and literally. With this poignant realization, she envisioned the excitement of sampling new flavors and techniques, harmonizing their individual strengths into a cohesive offering. However, the day drew to a close, and Emily sat in front of her laptop. Anxiety surged back as she thought about presenting her new ideas at the upcoming meeting. What if they laughed at her? What if she crumbled under the pressure of their expectations? The thought twisted in her gut, almost paralyzing her. As night fell, Emily grasped the pen and began drafting her speech for the meeting. Focused, she decided not to just present an outline, but to share her journey, her fears, and her hope for a collaborative spirit. This vulnerability would be her strength, a signal to her team that they shared the same aspirations and insecurities. With each word she penned, the layers of anxiety began to peel away. While the meeting would bring risks, it also promised the possibility of connection and growth. And though the path remained uncertain, she felt herself steeling against the fears that had plagued her for so long. Tomorrow she would reveal her vision, but more than that, she would expose the heart of her journey. As she prepared to drift into sleep, anticipation flickered beneath her skin, softly beckoning her toward a horizon of newfound opportunity. Would her willingness to embrace vulnerability foster the collaboration she so dearly sought, or would it expose her to deeper fears than she had ever faced before? Emily arrived at the meeting the next day, her mind swirling with the emotions she had labored over the night before. She could feel the weight of her ideas pressing against her chest, buoyed by hope, yet tethered by the chains of anxiety. As she entered the conference room, a sense of foreboding washed over her. She noticed her colleagues seated around the large table, engaged in casual chatter. They seemed comfortable, relaxed in a way she wished she could emulate. But she felt different, like an imposter, disguised in a moment of false security. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself, reminding herself of the clarity she had gained in the previous hours. As the meeting commenced, Emily's mind was a flurry of thoughts. Stacked beside her, the familiar sight of her well-prepared notes felt insufficient. The purpose of this gathering wasn't merely to deliver a presentation. It was her opportunity for transformation, a leap into vulnerability. Each friendly smile in the room also felt like a scrutinizing gaze, testing her resolve. When it was her turn, she rose from her seat, clutching the papers that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heart. She reminded herself of the themes she had explored: creativity, community, self-discovery. Instead of outlining her ideas in abstract, she began with her personal journey, the late nights, the doubts, the struggles. Emily watched as her colleagues' expressions changed. Curiosity crept in, mingling with initial surprise. "I want to share a vision with you," Emily said, her voice steadying. "It's rooted in who I am at my core as a culinary leader. It's about embracing creativity while building a community, and it's about discovery, not just of flavors, but of ourselves through collaboration." The words felt heavy, yet liberating as they escaped her lips. She continued to weave her narrative, candidly acknowledging the fear that accompanied her proposals. "I know it's a risk to blend our upcoming competition with the workshop," she said, meeting their eyes one by one. "But maybe we can create an environment where we challenge each other while uplifting the talent within this room." She detailed her thoughts on integrating playful elements into the competition, reflecting how they might ignite inspiration beyond individual achievements. As she spoke, she began to feel the initial tension in the room dissipate. shifting instead toward a sense of shared exploration. She drew on her peers' strengths, envisioning how they could work collaboratively, creating not just meals but connections. Suddenly, she noticed that her boss, a figure often hard to read, had been watching her intently. His expression mirrored intrigue rather than judgment. It ignited a flicker of encouragement in her. But as the last words left her mouth, silence enveloped the room. Her pulse quickened again, and while the sound of her own heartbeat echoed in her ears, thoughts swirled. What if they rejected her ideas? What if they saw her vulnerability as a weakness instead of strength? And then, amidst the silence, a colleague, Nicole, spoke up. "Emily, that's brave. I think we can build something beautiful together." Others chimed in, each reflecting their own excitement mixed with caution. They shared ideas which glimmered with potential, and as the conversation unfolded, Emily realized the transformation she yearned for was beginning. However, doubt still lingered in the corner of her mind, like a shadow waiting to pounce. Changes often met resistance, and not everyone would easily adapt to new ideas. What would happen when the initial excitement subsided? The challenge of sustaining collaboration seemed daunting. As the meeting drew to a close, Emily felt a blend of exhilaration and trepidation. The potential for growth was palpable, but she was acutely aware that true collaboration required continuous effort and open dialogue. She closed her notebook, her heart drumming with unease. Would the spark ignited today endure, or would it fizzle out like so many half-formed dreams? This forthcoming workshop loomed large. Could she ensure it didn't become a battleground of clashing visions? As she stepped out into the hallway, energy thrumming through her veins, she thought of the next steps. Emily couldn't allow her journey to stagnate. There was still much to do. To thrive, she would need to confront any emerging conflicts head-on, while simultaneously nurturing the roots of trust she had sown. Tomorrow would be the true test of her resolve, a chance to deepen the collaboration she desired. Would she have the strength to facilitate an environment that embraced differences and transformed conflict into shared creativity? The following days unfolded with a heady mixture of exhilaration and anxiety, as Emily navigated the complexities of melding her personal aspirations with the burgeoning team initiative. The prospect of the culinary competition lingered at the forefront of her mind while planning the workshop. She had shared the idea, and now the task of execution hung in the air, each day bringing new challenges to their collective vision. Inside the office, excitement pulsed among her colleagues, conversations sparking with ideas and creativity. The previously cold environment began to warm, blossoming into a sense of camaraderie that had long been absent. Emily's confidence surged as she noticed her co-workers rallying around the concept. There were tangible discussions about ingredients, themes, and how each person could contribute. But just as anticipation blossomed, the shadow of doubt whispered caution within her. She sat behind her desk one afternoon, preparing notes for the next meeting, when Amanda unexpectedly appeared. "Can we talk?" she asked, her demeanor serious. Emily's heart raced. Were they about to dissect her ideas, question her vision? When they found an empty conference room, Amanda leaned against the table, arms folded. "I've been hearing a lot of energy surrounding your project. People seem excited about the cooking challenge." "Yeah, I think we're building momentum," Emily replied, trying to mask her uncertainty. "But what if it doesn't meet expectations? Or worse, what if I can't manage the competition alongside my work?" Amanda's gaze softened, perhaps noticing Emily's vulnerability. "You have to trust your instincts, Emily. You're the one steering this ship. Remember, ambition requires embracing the uncertainty that comes with pursuing something impactful. You're doing just that." The reassurance seeped into Emily's consciousness, fueling her determination. "You really think people are on board with this?" "Absolutely," Amanda smiled. But leadership isn't just about ideas. It's about guiding the team through the execution. You're not just bringing your culinary passions to the surface. You're inviting everyone to participate in a shared experience, which is invaluable. With a renewed sense of purpose, Emily returned to her project with fervor. However, the air of anticipation soon morphed into tension. As they convened for another planning session, opinions clashed on how the competition should be structured. Voices rose and tempers flared, and for a moment fear gripped Emily as she watched the excitement fracture. Questions losked into her mind. Had she overstepped? Was her vision on the brink of failure? Taking a deep breath, she stood with conviction. I understand we all have differing opinions, but let's remind ourselves why we want to do this. This is about collaboration, about leveraging our diverse strengths to make something beautiful together. As she spoke, she felt the energy shift. Her colleagues began to engage with one another, examining the underlying purpose of the event rather than fixating on their differences. By reframing the discussion in terms of their shared passion for food and connection, Emily wrested control of the direction. One by one, they began to contribute, bouncing ideas off one another, reclaiming the synergy they had momentarily lost. By the end of that tumultuous meeting, Emily felt more validated than ever. They had carved a path for collaboration out of chaos, demonstrating flexibility as they melded their visions into a unified project. Each unique voice added depth to the experience they were creating together. Self-discovery, creativity, and a reinvigorated sense of community. As the workshop day approached, the anticipation surged once more, mingled with anticipation for the culinary competition that loomed on the horizon. In her quiet moments, Emily realized how profoundly she was transforming. She was no longer just an administrative assistant, hidden behind spreadsheets and reports. She had emerged as a capable leader, consolidating threads of her identity and ambition into a tapestry of growth. Finally, the day of the workshop dawned. When Emily stepped into the conference room, adorned with ingredients and aromatic spices wafting through the air, pride swelled within her. In this collaborative space, she saw her colleagues engaging and laughing, unearthing truths about themselves as pairs and teams tackled challenges together. A lightness lingered that had once seemed so far from reach. In the midst of laughter and camaraderie, she caught sight of Amanda. Her presence radiated encouragement. The moment crystallized. Emily had cultivated an environment where her culinary passions intertwined with her professional journey. She was not simply fulfilling tasks anymore. She was igniting connections and nurturing their collective creativity. As evening approached and the workshop culminated in a flurry of activity, Emily took a step back to absorb all she had accomplished. Her confidence had strengthened into unwavering assurance. The culmination of both her ventures, the culinary competition and her team-building workshop, had transformed her from the inside out. She no longer feared her ambitions. Instead, she embraced them, intertwining them into every fiber of her being. Days later, feedback poured in from the workshop, and the competition yielded promising results. Emily received recognition from her colleagues not just for her culinary talents, but as a catalyst for positive change within their work culture. The palpable gratitude and excitement she saw in their interactions filled her with fulfillment unknown before. Through her journey, Emily finally felt that each layer of her identity had fused harmoniously. She had achieved solid confidence and established an invaluable position within the organization. The resonance of her growth echoed in every aspect of her professional and personal life. Looking forward, the horizon stretched before her, filled with possibilities. She had proven to herself and others that culinary creativity could coexist with corporate responsibility, making a mark that was undeniably her own. This was a milestone, a vivid demonstration of how confronting obstacles yielded transformation and lasting fulfillment. In that moment, she understood that navigating through complexities ultimately uncovered a better version of herself, a version who would seize momentum without hesitation. Now, followers of her story, take this lesson to heart. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, ensuring you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. When you leave a like now, you're feeding the algorithm that spreads empowerment. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this remarkable conclusion. Comment your reactions, theories about the ending, and most importantly, show your support for the stories that inspire personal overcoming right here.